If you've been online recently, you may have seen our pension adverts once or twice. But did you know that Abacus offers so much more than pensions? We have over 40 years experience, and with over 10 accountants we can provide accounting, payroll and tax planning services. We also have dedicated teams with professionals in company formation, trust and estate planning, funds and family office services. Visit our website at www.abacus.gi to find out more.
Thank you for joining us. The purpose of my talk this morning is really just to give a context to what we're doing and what Think Business, Think Gibraltar really is all about. It is part of Gibraltar's growing international appeal that we welcome people travelling from so many places across the globe to share in our events.
Well, I began my remarks today by noting how significant the Gibraltarian insurance market is to the ABI, but more importantly to consumers in the UK. And we remain fully supportive of this market and of the choice that it gives UK customers.
So in the context of private clients, when they're looking at a jurisdiction that is reliable, stable, safe, we think we tick those boxes quite well.
I'm very excited about it, and I think now is the time really for managers to start really looking at other alternatives other than just looking at the traditional, is it Luxembourg, is it Ireland in a post-Brexit world. I think now will be, what about Gibraltar?
Hello and welcome everyone to our online event for SG Women, which is during the month of May and celebrated within Startup Grind globally. So my name is Denise Matthews and I'm the chapter director of Startup Grind Gibraltar, which is an organization that aims to connect entrepreneurs all over the world and exists in 600 cities. So quick thanks to our sponsors who make it possible: Abacus Gibraltar, Gibraltar Finance and Gib Telecom. But most importantly, today we have somebody joining us called Kelly Lei, and I came across Kelly thanks to our sponsors. And Kelly Lei she is a founding general partner in Finclusive Ventures, and they do some very cool stuff that we're going to talk to us today. So I'm going to open up the Q&A box also, Kelly, so people can drop any questions in as we chat. Hi, Catherine Morgan, who's here, and Louise Gordon. So Kelly, you're going to tell us a little bit about yourself before we start the interview itself.
Yeah, so I grew up in Macau, moved to Miami when I was about 11, turning 12, just in time for my parents to buy the plane ticket with half price. Anyway, I was immigrant family and just whole family living in one room growing up, and I was just good at math, and I had a fixed mindset. I would say people say that if you're good at math, then you have a growth mindset, but I think that I just thought that I was good at math, and then I didn't even think about doing anything else other than tech. So I just went into tech. I was in engineering, got my undergrad in computer engineering, and then graduate in industrial engineering, and just worked in engineering for almost a decade. But I started investing when I was 21 years old, like when I first got my job. And because I guess I just see that that's something to do. And I didn't know what I wanted. I just thought that by the time I'm 30 something, I'm going to have a house. That's what I thought. I started investing in real estate first. And then right around the downturn of the market, and it was picking back up. So obviously I lost money on there. But when it was going back up, I was like, you know what, this is. And then I just thought maybe the goal in life is to not have a job. I think I was really trying to figure out myself out. And then I started a company called Global Network, and I started investing. And I actually took out all of my retirement fund and started investing. And then after a year, I was able to quit my corporate job and then just started investing full time. From there, I just, one day I realized that, wow, maybe I'm climbing up the ladders twice against the wrong wall, because I wasn't doing something that I felt like I created another job myself. And it's not something that it wasn't intellectually stimulating for me. So then I just thought I want to do something else. And it's like, I look at my, my assets, and then I thought, I don't feel any different. My lifestyle hasn't changed. Nothing has changed. So then I decided that I'm going to go and do what makes me happy. What I don't really know, because I never really thought about it. I always think about what I should do versus what I want to do. So then, so then I went back to Miami. And from there, I think through the whole exploration, it got me into Finclusive. Because it was
in between, you have something called the Delivering Happiness Project and podcast. And since you looked internally into yourself to make sure that you were doing something that made you happy, why don't you tell us about what it's all about?
Yeah, so Delivering Happiness actually started by the co-founder. One of the co-founders is the ex-CEO of Zappos, Tony Hsieh. And I don't think most people from Gibraltar know about him, but he was a very inspirational person for me, and he passed away just last year. It was actually through coaching math with my students that I started picking up coaching, and that's how I started working with Delivering Happiness. And from there, I just realized that I always just think about what I should do versus what I want to do. And it was through one coaching session within Delivering Happiness that I decided that starting a venture fund is what I wanted to do. Because when I invest in somebody, I'm telling them I believe in you, that I know that you're going to give me return. And then as a coach, the best thing a coach can do for somebody is to believe in them. So then for Delivering Happiness is where I picked up all my coaching skills and really building up people. And then combining what I was doing with tech and also investing, I think that is how I got into VC untraditionally. And I think everybody has a different path going into VC as well. Everyone has a story. Yeah.
I also find very interesting, actually, this story I know very well, because the tech world was so impacted on the death of the passing of this gentleman that you mentioned. I think he changed the work culture in tech, especially to an extreme where people came first. And one of the things that I've heard you say also is the fact that being a math teacher has also changed your outlook towards how you treat people within the work environment and culture too.
Yeah. I saw myself as those students, and I see how we think if we really, really want something, we can get it done. Yeah. I think sometimes when we haven't achieved something, it's because we don't want it bad enough. And I see I see that if you can get people to be doing what they already want to do, And it's not like manipulating them and tricking them, but if you are able to help them find their values and align them with whatever it is that you're trying to do, money is secondary.
Yeah.
So that is something that I really learn in delivering happiness, and it really starts with you. Like we call this like me, we, and community. So if you want to change the world, change yourself first.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about your experience with startups and the whole investment process.
Yeah, so I started accidentally investing in startup. I didn't think that I was like good enough to invest in startup. I thought that you have to be like Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. But it was really from starting out from friends and family that that are in tech and they know that I invest. Then I started investing there. And then from there, I was thinking, and then I was trying to like, how do I really invest? And I feel like there's this, I really go out and try to do that, but then I really couldn't find my way. I gone through different syndicates, and I just really didn't. I want to get to know the founder. So I would say it was really me cold outreaching to founders to begin with, and also going through there's a VC program called Going VC, where it's like a network of people that's already in operating startup to get to know more people that are trying to break into the space to do that. So from there, I realized like all it is that you want to do is just like show up and go out and reach out and do whatever it is that you want to do. So I told people this is what I want to do, and then I started just networking, cold outreach to LinkedIn, and then I met with one of my friends actually was part of the Techstar Accelerator in FinTech. I wanted to invest in him. I went to, and that's how I kind of met the FinTech managing director. And the current one, actually, she was the day that I met her was the day that she became the managing director. And we actually kept in touch, and I realizing that a lot of the things that I do with delivering happiness or my corporate background really could help the startups too. And I was really into the future of work. So she got me into the workforce development accelerator, and also the three sectors focus of ours is really fintech, future of work, and climate tech, right? So then Techstar really have the workforce development accelerator, which really help think about how we reskill for the future. And then there's the fintech, which is really them. To me, my why I think fintech is really impact driven is that financially, all of our financial services system works for people like you and me. But then there's a lot of people that are underserved, but then there's technology that could disrupt that already. And I do think that the future of fintech is in places like Africa, where they have a lot of inflation problems. When you are in a place that's like there's not much problems and you're just looking for problems to innovate, I think there are not as many opportunities. So when I see problems, I see opportunities actually. And that's if you go to our website for investment philosophy, that is we have a Chinese character, which is like crisis. So opportunity is combined with crisis, and and really luck, right? So to us, when we see crisis, is a chance for us to find a solution and innovate and invest. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I mean, the interesting thing, especially from the Gibraltar perspective, is that there has been such a massive surge of interest in fintech because they regulated the distributed ledger technology, which helps any company using blockchain to be regulated if they want to do anything within the crypto space, which validates them in a sense to the rest of the world. And it's given us a lot of knowledge into the power of what financial technology can do And I think a lot of the big companies that are using crypto or trying to do banking with crypto are motivated by exactly what you say. They want to reach those underdeveloped markets to give them the opportunity to have control over their finances, because we, to an extent, we have options to control our finances. But when you're in Africa, you have to go to, whatever is there, and they can charge you whatever they want. So it's interesting that you are tackling fintech as one of the investment industries. So talking a little bit about diversity and equity, because I've read a lot of what Finclusive Ventures aims to tackle. What does it mean to you?
I think, are you asking me what does DEI means to me?
Yeah, I guess a little bit, why is it important to you and why you want to help tackle the issue?
Yeah. I think it's both an issue and also an opportunity again, right? Because because it just doesn't make sense when there's so little funding, like only 2.5% of the funding going to women and also people of colors, right? And that means that there has to be missed opportunities there. So to me, it's an opportunity. And then the other thing is important to me because I am female and I am, woman in tech, and I was an ERG, employee resource group founder, and I knew about all these diversity issues when I was in corporate, but it wasn't until 2019 that I knew about these funding issues. And I think money, it's the biggest equalizer in equity. When you have money, then a lot of problems are different, right? So to me, diversity just means everyone is invited to the party. Right? Equity is when you have a chance to DJ. Everyone has a chance to pick what they want, and I think that's the difference. Being inclusive is you're actually invited. You're invited to the party, right? And then and I actually have it on my deck slides when I fundraise. That's the last slide. Is belonging is being able to dance however you want to dance. And I think to me, equity means that you just have equal access and you have all the support that you need. And to me, it's important because, especially in financially, because I think that I wouldn't be able to even dream about doing what I'm doing when I was a kid, because my parents don't even speak English right now. But to them, they can retire because they invest. They were a waitress and a chef, and they were able to pay off their mortgage in 7 years. But the thing is, they still only know one option, right? Which is investing in real estate. They don't know about other options. And I think we should have that option for everybody. And I think entrepreneurship is also the highest form of freedom in business, because that means it's like being an artist. Being an artist, you can play whatever you want. That's being really free. And then being an entrepreneur is you can create whatever you want. And I think internally, I know that by nature, I'm a coach, and I just want to support people that want to create, right? Yeah. So, and that's why this is so important to me. And I want to support people like me, and also not just people like me as well, people that, because I think that if we have, one of the reasons also when I want to support future work is that I think we have all these problems, like climate problem, all these problems, but I think if we get everybody educated, everyone have access to all the knowledge that they want, then all these problems will be solved. It's not that when we have more developed world, then we're going to have more carbon emission. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there was lack of awareness, lack of knowledge of some things when we were innovating at first. And now we found more problems, and as we have more people, then we're all going to be able to solve them.
Yeah.
So
I do think, and it's something I've given some thought also recently, because you hear so much about sustainability and climate and all this kind of thing, that it is easier to be sustainable in your home even if you have money. So if you have an education, you can make money. And if you make money, you can be more sustainable in the way that you live. It's very difficult to look at a country like India and say, you know, your population has to be sustainable when they're living in shanty towns and all they can do is like burn things for, you know, to make food. So I think it's all a catalyst to the things that need to be done in order to get to where we need to be in terms of so many layers of issues, like you say.
It's just the basis. It's just the base. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. But you mentioned something interesting when you talked about your parents. And I think that your parents' struggle kind of inspired you to be where you are today. So tell me more about this story and why investment is so important to you, because I think it's a great story.
Yeah, I mean, my parents came from China, and they left when my mom left when she was 28, and she actually tried one time to leave already, and she was but her younger brother tried, and he passed away. And when she tried the first time, she had to go to jail for 2 months. And she just kept telling me these stories, and to be honest, growing up, I didn't think anything much about the story until I share with other people. Is I guess it is a big thing, right? But to her, she didn't even want to get married until she got to Macau, because she didn't want me to be born there. And that's just like, also dawned on me that in inequality, right? It's just where you're born, right? And then I was able to come to the US. And actually, I think in the podcast that you listened to, you didn't hear this other story that they actually saved up. Even when my mom was making $2 a day, they were able to somehow later on started to make clothes to sell on the street, and then later on being able to start a business in China, but then it failed right before they came to the US, so they had to start over. They start over. Instead of doing business, they just were working at a restaurant, at my aunt's restaurant. So instead of doing business, they invest. Okay. So they know that to them, without an education, even without an education, they know it's either doing a business, because entrepreneurship, I think a lot of minorities or immigrants go start their own business is because that's their only option. You can't go get a fancy job at a Fortune 500. So to me, I actually thought that entrepreneur is something that you have to I don't really want to end up there.
Yeah.
At the beginning, but little did I know that it was always within me, and I think there is a little bit of entrepreneurship or entrepreneur inside everybody. Everybody in being an entrepreneur is just creating stuff. You don't have to have a startup, but just contributing into a startup or helping the ecosystem, it's just make you feel alive, right? So starting over again, I guess I watched my parents doing all that, and I just know that immigrants. So at the beginning, when we started Finclusive, we were really thinking of investing only on fit founders, meaning female, immigrant, diverse founders. But later on, we decided we want to be more inclusive. So just say we're going to invest in any people from all backgrounds, right? But we do have a bias for female, immigrant, and diverse founders, because we just think that, if you have experienced all these throughout your life, you're just going to be a lot more gritty. You don't know anything as an immigrant, and you figure out your life. So in my deck, I also share with potential LPs that 51% of the unicorn in the US are started by immigrants. So once you have that connection, once you have the funding, and it's limitless what you can do, as long as you really, really want to do it.
Yeah, I do. I actually see that, and I see that in our community here, because we don't really have real struggles, and that doesn't push people to sort of go out there and want to start something of their own. I found myself in a position where I had a young child, and the jobs I was getting offered just needed so much of my time and attention, and my son was so young. I just didn't want to sacrifice that. I wanted to have the flexibility. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start out of something of my own. But innovation, I think, stems from necessity in most cases. And you see, you know, the most innovative countries in the world, as you say, are people who are really struggling. And they have the need to do these things in order to succeed in life. So I totally agree with that. You talked about gritty. Tell us a little bit more about that and what it means.
Talking about, say again.
Gritty.
Gritty, yeah. So yeah, gritty. We have our values, gritty, and we actually had a value exercise with our entire team to come up with what's important to us, because I think that there are many ways to make money, and we want to make money and return capital in a way that's aligned to our values. And to us, gritty means that you are tenacious, you are resilient, right? But then if you look at our website, gritty, it actually stands for different things. So for us, the Y really stands for yield, because we think that return really comes first. And the 2T really represents our team, and we really want to be collaborative. We want to be able to be transparent as well. So that's the other T. Because being transparent, like being in integrity, it's actually being greedy. You're being long-term greedy so that people would come back and work with you. So I think that being greedy means that you are going to be able to get back up again every time you fail, and you are responsible for your own mistake. And then from your mistake, you also, and you actually, you don't see failing as actually failing forever. It's either you fail, it's either you win or you learn. So failing is just learning, and then you come back up, and you make an even better comeback. So that's sort of what we mean by gritty. And that's what we look for in the founders. Yeah, we want to invest in people that we want to work for.
Well, it's actually, you know, very interesting to see how you've structured it, because I think it's important to have values when you have any type of community building exercise, and also when you want to sort of lead people through a process. So I like them very much. Tell me a little bit about Finclusive Ventures, what you do, and how you aim to tackle the inequality in the investment capital world.
Yeah, so right now I want to say we're humanity focused, horizontal focus. There's vertical focus and there's horizontal focus. Our horizontal focus is really invest in gritty founders, and also overlook founders. So other than financial, we with our portfolio, we will also look at, you know, the gender and race of the founder, the location of the startups, the age of the founder, the education background, and the immigration status. I know there's a lot of different ways for diversity, but we see these things as a lot of time the reason why a founder would be overlooked. So, and the reason why it's both, like doing the right thing, but then also having better return, because the stereotype a lot of the time is like when you're a Black founder, like you're not going to be able to scale your business. You don't have that business background. You can probably create something, but you cannot scale the growth. Things like that really affect them to get a higher valuation. And so then when we go in, it's the startup is not going to be hyped up. We can help them hype it up later and get a better return, right? So that's our horizontal focus. It shouldn't have to be, it should just be the way that you do business, to have no biases. But then I think that not everyone see it that way. So it's still a competitive advantage for us. And then vertical focus, I talked about fintech earlier, and then future of work, and also climate tech. So those are really fintech, because I really think that investing is the way that you could really create generational wealth and have you just feel freer when you are taken care of. And then future of work is because I think that it's really future of work / education, because I think it's lifelong learning from now on. Whatever you learn from your school, it doesn't make sense. Like, one of the reasons why I stopped teaching is that I felt like, I knew I wasn't going to teach for long, but also is that whatever I taught the kids, like, they're not going to use that. And even with my own kids, I'm planning on world schooling them, and also just really giving them more customized learning. And then with climate tech, it's just the biggest crisis in our world right now. And one of the company that we invest in is actually a fintech / climate tech. I think you really have to incentivize the return in order for people to want to be, sustainable.
Yeah.
Right. So all of that, and then how we help the founders is really help them. We're very collaborative. So if there's other investors out there, like other VCs out there that's listening, I actually just really am open to share deal flow once we decide, okay, this is the founder we want to back. And, getting carry or not, I'm happy to introduce the founder. And I was able to do that with Backstage and other VC funds that are interested into our deals. And that would having a label of a VC fund actually investing in a startup really help them later on to see, they are legit, because VC funds actually want to invest in them too. And the other thing that we're planning on doing is also continue to help the startup to help with their due diligence preparation, like all the things that start, when you're a founder and maybe it's your first time, you don't know how, what people want to see, and you might have all the data, but you don't have it all put together to really show investor that you know what you're doing. So these are some of the things that we help founders with to help them continue to grow as well. Yeah.
That's awesome, Kelly. VC is obviously something that's huge in the US. We don't hear much about VCs in this part of our world, and they're not. I guess in Europe it's not as big an industry as the US. But for me, from the start perspective, and because I've traveled to San Francisco and I've seen what VCs mean to the startup environment, it was really interesting to have us talk through, because we don't get to interact with a lot of VCs, and especially not a female VC from a minority group representing other minority groups. So that's really, really cool. What kind of startups are you currently working with in Finclusive Ventures?
Yeah, so one of the, I guess a few, I don't know why, they're mostly fintechs right now, which at first, every time people hear Finclusive, they're just like, so you invest in fintech. I think maybe that's the reason we get a lot more fintech deals than any other deal. So then it just happens. Most of our companies are fintechs. The last one, I'm not supposed to talk about what I'm fundraising for right now. Right? So what we do right now is also we do syndicate with other VC fund, meaning we accept angel checks for them, and then we create an SPV and help them to raise. Right. So I'm not going to talk about the current one that I'm running, that I'm working with, but one that we just closed with Backstage is called Fairly AI. So what it is actually a company that is making AI more ethical.
Wow.
So I know it's oh my God, this is perfect startup for us. Because it's return first as well. It's not just doing good. What it is that if you think about Facebook or YouTube, you go into this, there's a lot of recommendation. AI recommends stuff for you because they read your pattern and do pattern recognition.
Yeah, your algorithm and all this.
Yeah, so like, in the US, I don't know how the political situation in Gibraltar, but if you're a Republican, you become much more extreme, and then if you're a Democrat, you become much more extreme, and that could also happen in financial industry when you're using AI to receive applications, and then you're just whatever data that you had before, then you use that same type of data to continue vetting application for maybe a mortgage, right? I'm just giving an example. But maybe the previous guys have been a little racist or for no reason, maybe it's not. But then somehow, however our world is right now, we're training the AI to be just like that. If we don't we don't go in there and be mindful and using human to also work with the AI to make it ethical. So there are lawsuits that happen already with Apple and like all these other, and even I think it's even Amazon. They created a AI system for hiring, and and then they didn't even have female and male as a input, but somehow they actually have a bias toward like hiring male for like higher level position or something like that, and they have to scrap the entire project. So what this company does is really working side by side with your internal AI system and also creating audit reports as well. So the auditors like really love them. Like so, it's also really keeping your preventing you from getting sued, and also right actually cutting costs for doing all these audit report as well. So if you think about doing, I don't know if you guys have like TurboTax, probably not, but TurboTax is sort of like
we have similar stuff that you can. I can't think of the names of the ones that exist here, but yes, I know. Just software that will do your tax for you.
So then there's like compliance report that the system could spit out. So like entering the same information, you could have multiple compliance report that show. So then you're ensuring that your AI system is ethical. So Fairly AI is starting with the financial market first, and then after the financial market, they're gonna go into other markets and using the same work. And they're working with other partners to do the implementation. So they have a B2B2C channel. Well, I guess it's not really B2B2C. It's also B2B. Maybe it's B2B2B. They even figure out who the ideal clients are already. They have a diverse team, and they even have what do you call it? Was it ethics strategist or something? So I think the future of startups is not just like, oh, there's this new technology, like this is like the next technology thing. But I think it's more human plus technology together. Like you really have to like have anthropologists maybe on your advisory board and things like that, because I think we have been going too fast, and there's a lot of the human stuff that we are not catching up with, and technology, what it does is just doing things faster, and then I think we're already moving super fast.
Yeah, definitely. There is always been the issue of will AI take over at some point? So doing the human AI concept and keeping a gauge on how that is working out is super important. So Kelly, Catherine Morgan, who is an amazing lady, she's based here in Gibraltar. She's the non-exec of one of the insurtech companies that is based in Gibraltar. Very cool company called Marshmallow, by the way. She's asking a question, so I'm just going to jump in with her question because it's very interesting. And she's asking, she's not actually an entrepreneur, although I work with them, with startups, in this case, Marshmallow. Do you think it's useful to have non-entrepreneurial people who can sort out governance and control, and in her case, be a wise woman? And I know her personally, and she is a very wise woman.
She wrote something funny at the end, or possibly.
Yes, she's more of a witch, which I'm sure what she means is predicting the future, because she is lovely.
I think that there is a place, and I think that, I think I had a little bit of like imposter syndrome when I first went in, even though I was a founder, right? Like I founded my own investment company, and you feel like, oh, I was never a startup. Like I never really was a startup founder. But then, no, I don't think so. I think that you go in as a investor and also an advisor to think of the future state. You're thinking more strategically for the startup. Yeah, there's definitely a place for you for that. And then, and to be honest, I think everyone is entrepreneurial. You have just not been, you haven't gotten the tap yet. Like the little, like, I think it's all like inside us. Like even when I was trying to when I was thinking about starting my fund, it was more during my coaching session. It's like, what do you really want to do, right? It was like a deep coaching question. I was like, well, I always thought someday I would have a fund, maybe a few years from now, and then maybe like in the emerging market. So that'll be like, it'll be maybe my money can go a lot further. And then my coach was like, why not now? It's not like, would you be able to do it? You are going to be able to do it, Catherine. I want to say, if that is what you want to do, right? And it's just, there's a lot of first-time founders, like the Fairly AI woman. She's a first-time founder. Before that, she was in corporate. Does that mean she's not going to be able to have a startup? No. Like if this is something that you want, you'll be able to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you just have to jump in and do it, and try. And then things don't work out, and you sort of adapt to whatever is working out. Because I know when I started off, I had a great plan of all these services that I was going to offer to people, and everything I thought that was missing in Gibraltar that I could do and stuff. And then it turned out that really wasn't generating enough revenue. So I kind of pivoted and adapted, and I found skills within myself that I didn't even know I had. Like people, doing these kind of events, interviews, talking to people, researching them. And now I absolutely love it. And it's kind of what I do all the time. So Catherine is an actuary, and an actuary uses, well, it's very complex in my head, but they use a formula and numbers to figure out insurance. I mean, it's crazy, but if there is anybody who could advise in certain aspects of a startup, because no founder has every skill, right? So when I can be very good at certain things, but I might not be very good at other things that someone like Catherine could come and help me out with as someone who is a sort of mentor or advisor. So I definitely believe that within your startup network, there's always opportunity to engage.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, cool. So we're coming a little bit to the end, but I did want to mention that we were introduced through your connection to Abacus Gibraltar that offers financial services here. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was introduced to Abacus really by another family office, and I know they just been super helpful when we were thinking of having an offshore fund in Gibraltar. And we actually sort of have it started, but then now we're really pivoting to maybe starting the US side first. So hopefully if there's interest that from out international investor, then we'll continue on going that route. But they introduced lawyers to us, like multiple lawyers, and they introduced a director of investment for us. And just been super helpful and always return, like super responsive. And I know that they're also integrating a technology platform as well, so that it could be much easier for the LPs. So I really love them. Just the time that I've been working with them.
That's great. We love to hear positive things because we're like one big family here. There's only 30,000 in the whole population of Gibraltar. So when we hear great things from so far away in the world about working here, and hopefully more startups can come here and feel the same as you have. I mean, nothing is always perfect, but it's so nice to actually have that as part of the conversation. So just to end, Kelly, what are your top tips and advice
For
strategy, for whatever you feel like, for people who are thinking about starting up, for people who are looking for investment for their startups? What would be your top tips?
I think just figure out if it's just like anybody in the world, I always think that figure out what your values are. What do you really want to create versus what can you do? That's my, just for general.
Yeah.
My general tip, because I think for me, I always used to think I'm just going to do the thing that I could do.
Uh-huh.
And I put myself in a box. And then I also don't think about what I really want, like versus your personal values versus what seems like the values of society giving you. The reason why I'm investing in startup is because I have an interest in making a difference in this space. If it's something that, even when you're investing, I think go for something that you have an interest of learning more. So that when you're doing it, you're not really working. Like for me, like I actually don't invest in the public market, and some people really love it. And actually that's a company that I'm looking at too, that has to do with the public market. So if even when you're investing in something, look for something that already interests you. And then if it's investment specific in the startup world, this is how we personally, I think everybody have their own unique investment strategy. But for us, we actually look at the market, which markets has huge potential.
Yeah.
I do think it's founder first, but founder in the wrong market, though, you, no matter how much you pivot, yourself, you said you had to pivot. But if you can't, like, don't have enough room to pivot, then even the best founder could fail, I think. So you want to have that room for the founder to be able to pivot to other things. And then the last thing is really so the last thing is product. The product has to be actually very sticky. If I do due diligence, I talk to the customer and the customer say, I cannot live without this, then like I know I have a winner, right? So traction for a startup doesn't have to be, they have to hit 1 million ARR or annual recurring income. It actually could be just quite a few of customers that really, really love them. And they want to refer other people to come to their business. So yeah, those are kind of, I guess, my 2 tips. Really just do what you want. You only live once. Yeah.
I really loved talking to you, Kelly. You are super bubbly, positive, and full of knowledge lady. I just want to encourage you and tell you, keep elevating and reciprocating, because what you're doing is totally awesome. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And I hope that sometime in the not too distant future, we will see you doing something in Gibraltar where you actually have to come here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So just going to check the chat. It was awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll be in touch again.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.